John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Humans have been asking these deep questions about the nature of their reality, and these are just using the tools of our society to ask these deep questions in a different way. The ancients did too, and they're with what they had available to them. The scientific model has to change continuously to accommodate our knowledge, and if we're learning more, then we have to fit that into our bigger picture of understanding reality. Well, fundamentally, we're talking about interpreting what we see. And I think all of us, for centuries, and certainly all the astronauts that have been off the planet and look back at Earth, we kind of call it the big picture effect of seeing things in a new perspective, seeing Earth in the perspective of being in the heavens, and that we're just a small part of this huge universe that we're in.
I had completed my major task for going to the moon and was on the way home and was observing the passing of the heavens. The magnificence of all of this, what this triggered in my visioning, in the ancient Sanskrit, is called samadhi. It means that you see things with your senses the way they are, but you experience them viscerally and internally as a unity and a oneness accompanied by ecstasy. We are stardust, and we're all one in that sense.
In other words, instead of just serving self, what it tends to help you do is to realize you're a part of a larger reality and to serve that larger reality in a proper way.
So I'm not so sure it was all about collecting intelligence and how well we did. The evolution of consciousness itself is expanding consciousness itself can evolve, and I believe that's probably towards what I call empathy.
The main idea from all of our research is that there is no separation, especially no separation in consciousness. More than machinery, we need our humanity.
If the world were to accept this research, we would have to recognize that we are not isolated within our brains. We would have to recognize that we live in the earth, not on the earth. We live embedded in the biosphere of earth, and that all consciousness is interconnected and interrelated.
And that's why we can transmit the power of love, the power of healing. Maybe it's very subliminal, but it definitely exists.
I came across this and said, you know, there's a lot of people who think you're nuts, but you know, hang on, and maybe you're not. We should always be open to our imagination, because once in a while, some of the imaginations will come true. So I think it's time to close up and move on.
Hey guys, welcome. Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth, with you once more. Thank you for being here and allowing me to be a part of your journey. As I always say, there's 168 hours in the week and they're all very precious. So if you're investing some of your time amongst all that and everything going on, and however hectic your life may be, I do greatly appreciate it. There is so many different perspectives and teachers and interests and paths to go with your attention. So if I've somehow found my way to be in your life, then I do greatly appreciate it. I come to you feeling pretty awesome and on my game. If you've been around me for a while, there's been a lot going on, especially since mid-year. About early June it was game on for me, and I went through a lot and done a lot of missions and realized a lot of concepts going on, and very, very misguided things being done to me, and probably a lot of you clients as well, right? If you're here still. So, as I said, I'm very grateful for you to be here and allowing me to have this outlet on a day that there's some pretty epic solar flares coming through. So if you're watching this in the future, there's a lot going on right now. So why not do something about our infinite potential? So I have been a bit passive in doing the videos and stuff. I haven't been doing as many, but I've actually enjoyed being passive and doing stuff in the background and employing a subtly different strategy at the moment. So I'm being a bit less transparent and all that sort of stuff, but I'm still being me and doing the same thing and seeing how people go if I am to be a part of their journey and all that sort of stuff. And I've worked out and discovered a lot and improved my mechanics and my defense, and worked out a lot of angles that I couldn't see that were not in the best things for me and humanity and Earth and the potential of our universe. So I've definitely been aligned to the pure source sort of thing, and thanks to sort of the epic allies that I would love to share who they are, since late July when I worked out about the code stealing concepts, when my concept was being stolen again, deja vu of 2020. So what I was brewing was exploring many things and concepts and appreciating all the big scale stuff we've been a part of. So whether you've read or listened or heard what I've offered out there, that there's some big structural things that we've had significant wins for from my perspective. Whether that's the whole thing or not, I trust what I do and the incredible beings that I've had the privilege of operating with for the last few months, that in sessions or under serious attack we flipped it and worked out the mechanics of all the stuff going on and took things apart to make the greatest scales of the structure of the universe on our side once and for all. So I've been working with the 10,000 Central Suns, 1000D Dragons, 22D Mars, the clear Metatron Oversoul that wants to redeem himself sort of thing for all the crap that he's been a part of for a very long time. So, and if you've explored the sort of moon video and Echoes 12 that have been quite recent, clearing up the moon and what was being done to the earth since then, and one of the other things that I don't know if I mentioned, that we worked out that a lot of people's oversouls were being actually stolen, like millions, and we busted them and we got them back. So one of the epic allies that has revealed themselves and trusted me, we did many things like that. So what I'm just getting to is there's the biggest structure that is, from my perspective, on our side and clearer, but it's more that I made a joke about Kumbaya spirituality or Crocodile Dilligaff Dundee spirituality, and I said I had a bad case of Kumbaya spirituality, because what I felt, this is going back to May and stuff, that there was the path isn't clear for the awakening sort of thing, and so the oversouls were holding things back. But now we realize that the oversouls were hijacked and influencing people. But not only on top of that, there's part of my sort of investment in research and exploring people such as Sabrina Wallace and many others that have revealed themselves. I've been sort of investing in that middle space where there is the potential for breakout and stuff. So I'm just going to show you an image that I have shown many times, just to give you a bit of context for where I am here with this video, right? And this particular theme, because I'm going to aim for a not so vaster, I'm going to aim for a more mainstream sort of audience to help them get through and just get some foundational concepts, that realizing what I've sort of realized and appreciating it, I feel that this is where a bit of an investment is required right now. So this is what this theme is about, to help people break out of the stranglehold that is a violation of our free will from an epic level, from my perspective. So I'm just going to show you an image. So this is a trusted one I've shown many times, and it's evolved because I used to just have that little corner, and realizing the misguided structures that are going on, and infiltrators that are actually Ayani massacre participants that have probably got our DNA codes from the massacre, that give us the Stockholm syndrome of gravitating to them, and they're playing the false victim sort of thing, that they were victims of it when they're actually the perpetrators. Hint, hint. Okay. So getting through the spiritual community and what's been going on has been an epic battle, and I've been doing it for a long time, and this is just a perspective for you to entertain, but these are all foundational things that I've appreciated from being in the field and experience with all the people I've operated with, and the discoveries, particularly in these last 4 months, that have been incredibly rich. So what's going on with me is that I've invested in me a lot. All this stuff has gone on. I've just used it as a tool to get better in me, and I feel like I'm on the other side of it now. So I've always appreciated everyone where their journey is, and so my session structures are very specific to identify the influences that might be trying to get to me or derail everything, or not liking me spending so much time with someone that they've got under full control and stuff, right? So I layer it and do many things and give plenty of time, because falsehood is enormously costly, plus the influences and stuff, and truth and authenticity is very efficient, and it's an ally to your psychic stamina, all those sort of things. So it's fascinating the journeys I go through with people with them and stuff, but this is sort of my aim for people, to help them get beyond all of this stuff. And there might be instances where people go through their journey and then they get hit and stuff, and as I've said in the past, mystical experiences might be realizing you've been smashed and that this stuff goes on and there is a warfare going on and stuff, and you've been plundered for codes and energy harvests and all this sort of stuff. But I feel that there's enormous potential with all this infrastructure that we've sort of taken care of, if you take on board and appreciate that I wouldn't say stuff unless I trusted it, sort of thing, right now, okay? That there is enormous potential for us to break through. What I was saying about joking about me and the Kumbaya spirituality is I thought that this was very organic. There wasn't so much structure in place. There's always been influences and stuff, but what I've come to appreciate, and if you've watched Echoes 12, particularly the second half, which I'll look to do something with perhaps in the future, to be a bit more expanding on that, alright? But I use the word naive because we think everything is free will and stuff, but there is an enormous sort of battle to maintain this, and it's vaster than what I thought, and so I've gained a lot more appreciation of it. So what I'm suggesting is this theme, like our intuitive potential, is an invitation for people that are going through that journey but might be battling through it, to give you some foundational concepts to launch from, to make it more solid so you can persevere and get through to realizing your potential now, which is your fate. Right? It just might be a bit rough. It's far more complicated and all sorts of stuff, and with me employing these particular people that I've sort of revisited, I think it will be an enormous ally just to get some solid components to build your perception Tetris, if you will, if you like my consciousness Tetris concept that I've offered many times and stuff. So when I offer my content, I just be me and allow it to be what it is in the moment. But I'm appreciating maybe it might be a bit complex for people because of my linguistics and the word patterns I use and all that sort of stuff. So there might be a lot of challenge to actually accept what I say, and that's all cool. But it also might be a byproduct of the influences going on with you that don't want you to hear what I can say, because they will lose their influence over you. And as I say, there is a war going on. You'll be on the other side of it, and they won't be able to benefit from, say, your codes or your life force anymore. So there's the level of negativity going on is pretty exceptional at the moment, and as I've said in the past, I invite a lot of discernment of me in that, and see me as wrong first, but see everyone else as being wrong and opposite of what they're saying is not about others, it's about themselves and stuff, right? So this is an invitation to appreciate this, and maybe in this series I'll offer some components that maybe I assumed in the past that you'd get and stuff, and they will be good launch pads or attributes to employ in your journey to make things a bit solid for you to launch. So we'll see, alright? So I'm just going to move on. So my last video was all about exploring the unknown, alright? And it's this image here. So again, why I'm introducing this sort of theme right now is there's quite a few of us that have been dealing at the number 4 level and taking a lot of hits and stuff like that. Most people are sort of going through the 1 and 2 journey of discovering this stuff, and maybe feel very insecure and uncertain about things, and have a lot of hesitation and doubt, and maybe having their kryptonite used against them and stuff like that. Because I'll employ some pretty cool clips and stuff, right? So I was contemplating offering what I was going to offer here in the Emotional Mastery series, and it has an overlap with this, so it could be seen as an extension of that, Alright? But yeah, just the key is to not fear all this stuff. This is just the mechanics. We've never sort of appreciated this. It's taken me a long time to work all these sort of things out. But once we have a structure, alright, of appreciation of things, we can work about a solution of it. And expanding our intuitive potential is an aspect of it, from my perspective, right? We all have it. It's just a matter of engaging it, recognizing it, harnessing it, and empowering it by development and testing and trialing out, and perhaps being willing to fail and go through things. Like I said, maybe the first mystical experience you go through is a massive smashing and stuff, and then it takes you years to recover and stuff, but you gain a lot of wisdom from experience, alright? So I'm just going to move on. So what I might be offering you here with the content that I offer you is a lot of context to see things in a different view, where maybe you didn't even know that you had perceptions or talents or anything like that, but now you get the information to see them in a different way. And then you might be able to employ them to see things, how things are going on out there in a different way, to help you navigate through the reality and be a master in it. Like, we all have the potential now, like we've probably never had before. It may seem quite bleak and stuff like that, but it feels like the energy of the negative forces has come to sort of a peak in that contrarian view, sort of trader mentality that I perceive, alright? So just appreciate this. This might be offering you a lot of context to see you differently and navigate your path better with the data that is out there that maybe you never was even contemplating, alright? So I haven't used this for a little while, but this is a metaphor of, say, our journey, alright? So we might go into an awakening, we get impacted, hijacked, we get clear, then we get targeted and all that, and then we get compromised, and then we might turn against people and all this sort of stuff, see each other differently, and that's where I've invited the contrarian view and see me as wrong. You know, perhaps I am wrong and all that sort of stuff, but maybe if I've got the courage to say that, maybe I'm pretty solid. But I'm inviting you to employ me as a discernment variable to measure against and stuff, right? But then my feel is that we ultimately get so badass and strong that we become invincible. So just appreciate there's all sorts of journey that we might have to explore. Experience is the key to wisdom, alright? So getting compromised, getting hit, others getting compromised, and being able to intuitively discern that maybe they're not in the game and all that, alright? It's all part and parcel of us re-establishing Earth's control over the planet and restoring the universe back to its original source, from my perspective, when it's never had the chance, okay? So what I was intending to do is do a big emotional mastery part 8, because I really got my fire and lit and energy going and interest and stuff. So what I've done is, I've said this in the past, I found some DJ mixes of mine from 2004, and that was an era when I was very clear. Before I got into relationship and stuff like that, life was going very well and stuff, and then many things unfolded after that. So it was a bit of a reference point of me when I was clear of all the stuff that's going on, and it's been pretty tough few months. I've done maybe 20-25 GSF missions and stuff, which have been hardcore. But from my perspective, just having a conversation with someone versus doing a GSF sort of thing, it's the same energy. It's just where that energy goes and what the potential realized is. So when I really got going, I found those mixes and stuff. So I have gone through an interesting journey myself these last 4 or 5 months, and I feel the best I've ever felt, literally. And I feel like I'm anchoring it. I've been testing sort of that invader network influences. Say when some clients come through that have been infected with it, I can feel like the night before I'm getting hacked by a certain individual in my left shin and stuff, and just playing with it and getting stronger to defend against it and anchoring the other side of it and stuff. So what I did in this energy is I started going back to my roots back then, And my original sort of, if I appreciate it now, was always developing for intuitive and harmony of the perceptions and being them, and I was always subconsciously and instinctively going through this development over a very long time and stuff. And one of the people that I came across was this very interesting guy called Malcolm Gladwell, right? And so one thing I love is going back and revisiting old content that, say, gave me meaning back then, but say with all the context of all that development, what you get after, all right, with this expanded you that you are, all right? So I wanted to see what was out there and stuff. There was a particular era of him from 2005 to 9 or something, where he wrote 3 books: Tipping Point, Blink, and Outliers. And I'm not going to introduce him here now because I'm going to do a shorter video introducing Dean Radin in a clip that I did employ, I think, many times in my Conscious Explorer series, but it's a very cool thing, alright? Because what I'm going to do is break up those videos and do a shorter one here. I'm just introducing the Dean Radin clip relative to the Noetic spectrum. And so there's things like gut instinct and stuff, alright? Which Malcolm Gladwell Blink book really empowered me to appreciate the gut back in 2005 or 6, right? And I'll talk a bit about him when I introduce him, because I think he's a very interesting character, and I always love sharing the teachers so you actually have a reference to them and hear their voice and their linguistics and their intent and appreciate their data right or wrong, because it's very interesting. Because when I listened to the lecture, it was like, there's some stuff I don't agree with now, which is interesting, and I'll talk about that when I share it. So I was brewing to do a really long one, but I think I'll do 2 separate ones, because I just want to introduce in part 1 the Dean Radin and Noetic spectrum, because like I said, it's a bit more entry level sort of thing, and it's a bit more bite size. And when you see that there's a sort of a mechanics of appreciation at different levels of awareness and stuff, that might be really empowering for you to hear him and his perspectives, because I've got the full lecture on my site, but this is a short clip that I think it'll be worth reintroducing now, alright? So, and then what I did is I went and revisited that lecture myself and just took a bit more of an extraction. Like I was only going to include this Dean Radin sort of clip as a 3 or 4 minute intro, but I went and revisited and feel like expanding a little bit, so you got a good reference of it, and that might encourage you to go watch the full lecture, because that particular lecture I've got on my site, it was never public, and it was all in components, and the audio was off and stuff, so I did some keyboard ninja skills and put it all together and made the audio line up and stuff. It was a bit of a project, but well worth it, because that particular lecture is very rich it's called Entangled Minds, and he's a very interesting character, and he's offered a lot of content out there for things in this space between the science and the spiritual, sort of to bridge the gap, alright? And as I said, I'm trying to keep it a bit lower, not entry level, but that region of people that might be caught up in this stuff, right? To help you guys get through it with the experience that you probably got that you don't know you've got, to empower you to launch through it with some components that you probably never thought you had, alright? So what I'm going to do is introduce the clip now, and I'll talk a little bit after. So this is Dean Radin and a segment of his Noetic spectrum from the Entangled Mind lecture I've got on my site. So enjoy, guys, it's pretty cool.
I've given this talk in a number of different venues, and somebody suggested it's a little bit like a beautiful mind. And I don't know whether that was a compliment or not. They might say, well, maybe I'm schizophrenic. But so I would revise this slightly into, rather than a beautiful mind, a beautiful story of mind-matter interaction. Because when I tell this story for a popular audience, I can't get into very heavy technical details, but I don't gloss over it either. So those of you who are statisticians will see a couple of z-scores and things of that sort, probability values. Just as a little bit of my background, it includes music, electrical engineering, computer engineering, holography, educational psychology, cognitive psychology, artificial intelligence, cybernetics, and psychophysiology. And the reason I put that up there is because for about 10 years, that's the kind of stuff that I did in the early part of my career. And I say this to give you a sense that I know how the engines of science works, and I know what's required in science. But my interests all along, even from the very beginning, have been this other side: telepathy, precognition, clairvoyance, collective consciousness, all of which are forms of mind-matter interaction. The caption says, "The night before the big presentation, Dean receives a visit from the PowerPoint fairy." That's to let you know that I like PowerPoint. I use it a lot. Most of what I'm talking about, I'm actually using this as a prompter, but it'll help you follow along as well. So the study of psychic phenomena starts with experience. It all starts with human experience. If people didn't report these things, there would be nothing to talk about. And one way of thinking about the experiences is on this two-dimensional graph, where the x-axis is the impact of the experience and the y-axis is the frequency. Impact goes from mundane to profound, frequency goes from common to rare. And when you start plotting different experiences on here, you can start on the lower left with things like gut feelings. And I say this is both common and mundane because it doesn't sound like it's psychic. But if you put it in the right context, if you ask somebody, for example, have you ever driven down the road 1,000 times, but today you just get a bad feeling about a certain corner. And so you approach that corner and you slow down and a truck goes through a red light. And you realize then that your unconscious sense of something not right may have saved your life. Well, that's a gut feeling. Any audience, believers, skeptics, you name it, if you pose the question correctly, you will find that 80% of the audience has had some kind of gut feeling like that. So we've done experiments to see whether gut feelings include a psychic component or not by actually measuring the electrogastrogram, which is the electrophysiology of the gut itself. And we found that it did involve some psychic, or actually, I should say, it involved information that was not reachable by the ordinary senses. Let's put it that way. So you had things like gut feelings, the feeling of being stared at, telepathy, distant knowing, distant healing, premonitions, creative insight, religious epiphanies, the oceanic feeling, and somewhere at the top, mystical union. Who reports these things? At the bottom left, everybody reports this. When you start going up, you start giving labels like healer, intuitive, geniuses and prodigies, and at the very tip top, people like Francis of Assisi, Hildegard of Bingen. So what's the commonality is what I call the noetic spectrum. We're talking about a spectrum here which involves a direct, unmediated gaining of information that somehow does not involve the ordinary senses. And I would claim that this actually is a continuous spectrum. We don't ordinarily think of it in those terms, but in fact, all the way up and down the spectrum, we're always talking about something to do with unmediated acquisition of knowledge. These are some of the characters I just mentioned, including Ramanujan, the mathematical genius, who felt that his theorems, his mathematical theorems, which are still studied today, and there are even journals devoted to his theorems, he got from a Hindu goddess who spoke them to him, and he simply wrote them down. Because we have Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, and Swedenborg. And there are, of course, many, many others I can put up there. All of this is talking about forms in which there's information transfer that we don't have good names for yet. The name we use for this form of information transfer is typically telepathy. It's a perceptual passing of information between people. When the information somehow is pushed back into the environment, we call it things like psychokinesis or telekinesis. When information comes from the environment and it comes into your head, not through the senses, we call it things like clairvoyance, and when it's slipped in time, we might call it precognition or retrocognition. So all of this actually is a form of mind and matter interacting in ways that we don't quite understand yet. Einstein was not only a great scientist, but considered the person of the last century. And his way of talking about science is one that I think many scientists may not either agree with or even know. What he said was the supreme task of the physicist is to arrive at those universal elementary laws from which the cosmos can be built up by pure deduction. This is like ordinary science. But he went on to say that there is no logical path to these laws. Only intuition, resting on sympathetic understanding of experience, can reach them. And when you look at the biographies of all of the great scientists, almost without exception, they say very similar things. They don't figure out what the great breakthroughs are. They somehow get it downloaded into their head from they don't know where. So that's the noetic spectrum. If you look at the back page of the annual report for the AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, what you find are three of the icons of science. You have Isaac Newton, Thomas Edison, Marie Curie. But what they don't say is that Newton spent the majority of his scientific career studying alchemy, not trying to turn lead into gold, but the true alchemy, which is the transformation of consciousness. Thomas Edison spent a lot of time trying to develop machines that would allow him to talk to the dead. Marie Curie attended seances. This is also true of most of the people who are considered the icons of science. They had interests which went beyond science. And one of the places they tend to go is this noetic spectrum. So why is this interesting? Well, up here we have very rare experiences. There aren't all that many people who have changed the world. This stuff is beyond the reach of current science. We don't have good explanations for this yet. But it's also very well accepted. Nobody questions that Einstein was a great scientist and the other icons of science. Nobody questions it in the arts or in politics or in anywhere else. This is well accepted stuff. Down here we have very common experiences, completely amenable to scientific study, but it's also highly controversial, which doesn't make any sense at all to me when you think of it in terms of dealing with a spectrum of experience. These kinds of experiences transform us. Sometimes even for some people, a single deja vu can change your life because it gives you a glimpse of a way of seeing the world that you might have thought was impossible. And of course it goes to much more dramatic events, but nevertheless, those are experiences that transform us, and those are experiences that transform the world. So the reason why I study psychic phenomena is not necessarily because I like the woo-woo part of it, I actually don't, but because I'm interested in this connection. I also want to know, like a lot of people, how do we change the world and make it a better place? Well, one way of doing that is to figure out what is that noetic spectrum and how does that information actually get into your head, and can we figure out better ways of doing it? Now, Western physical sciences, and physical science sort of goes together, the terms are almost identical. It's roughly 300 years old. From the Western science point of view, psychic phenomena of this type, and in fact any of the noetic spectrum, is considered impossible nonsense. It's partially because we're dealing with a form of information gathering, as I said, that is unmediated by the senses. So it is literally nonsense. It's nonsensible, it's insensible. And we're so tied into the idea that the only way of knowing is through the senses, that anything that is not that is by definition nonsense. So it's impossible nonsense. There are 17,500 institutions of higher learning around the world. About 30 of them have faculty who are publicly known for being interested in extended capacities of mind. That's 0.2% of academia worldwide. But virtually 100% of the population worldwide is intrigued by this topic. By intrigued, I mean both they believe in it strongly, some don't believe in it strongly, but everybody is intrigued. And this is one of the reasons why there's only 0.2% of academia involved, because of this. These kinds of images are what people think of as psychic phenomena, because they're so widely distributed. And when you're encountering this kind of stuff, scientists, of course, don't want to be associated with it at all. And so they strongly dissociate from it, publicly at least. The other thing is that many of these stories, not exclusively, but many of these stories provide information about very strong psychic functioning that ultimately is like Frankenstein. It's not a good thing. And so the main characters, they die, they're taken away, they have to go away, and so on. Like in this case was a good example. And that changes our collective view of what we're talking about when somebody mentions about psychic phenomena. They think, ooh, Hollywood weird stuff. So we have 0.2% of academia, we have 100% of the public who are interested. What's wrong with this picture? This picture is actually much worse in the U.S. because there's 0% in the U.S. The 2.2% comes from other countries. Skeptics claim that 100%, or some good portion of it, are uneducated, credulous, or stupid. That's how you explain this result. As you may read in my book, Entangled Minds, this is the opinion of the National Science Foundation. So they don't actually use these words, but they get really close to uneducated, credulous, and stupid. But you could take a different approach. The approach that I take is say, well, a skeptic could also ask, maybe the mainstream opinion is wrong. Sometimes when you have 100% of the public that's interested in something, there's something going on. And in the 2.2% of academia that resists this, there are many other explanations, including things like scientific taboos, of which there are many. And this is one of them.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed it. It's pretty cool. Hey, I hope you, if you're inspired to go watch the whole thing, it's very interesting. So Dean Radin was one of the cool guys that revealed himself back when organic YouTube versus the GMO modified one that we've got now, when you would go and search for things and the links between people and the content were very empowering and taking you to a whole new level sort of thing, and aimed for our consciousness expansion and intuitive potential sort of thing. So that lecture I think was about 2005 and stuff, around that era that I'm talking about, where I really got going, and it was very cool. You know, I used to love getting all the different opinions of people like that and combining them to find a pathway through it. You know, if you get 3 or 4 people that are totally unique and never overlap and stuff, and then they offer their own perspectives, then you can overlap stuff and find a sort of a coordinated truth overlapping people and seeing their common truths that in their own linguistical expressions and stuff. So Dean's very grounded in the scientific sort of foundation of things back then. I mean, that's 10, 20 years ago now, and I haven't explored him or, as I mentioned earlier, Malcolm Gladwell much since the eras that I talk about, because I just really enjoyed the richness and the pureness and the simplicity of what they're trying to explain back then, because I feel one thing I've appreciated lately is that there's this variable of complexity in a lot of the teachers that I feel is not required, and it has the potential to bog people down. And that's where I was saying about the people I've dealt with in the past that offering so much, and one of the books Malcolm Gladwell offers is called Outliers, which is very cool, and he talks about doing the 10,000 hours of work. For most of the experts out there and masters in their craft, they might make things look easy, but there's no substitute for hard work. So I got that book back in 2006, 7, I can't remember now, but I always appreciated that he always presented amazing people that had a bit of luck, right? But there's no substitute for hard work and effort, right? And so yeah, I've put a lot of effort into a lot of things over the years and haven't really got a lot of answers of had a lot more questions, which is a good thing, but I feel we should be vastly more advanced of where we're at, and if anything, they've been working to cap our intuitive potential, to not be a threat, to see through them and what they've done and what they've been a part of in the past. All right. So I don't want this to be too long. I want to inspire you to want to expand your intuitive potential and not put a cap on it. That's why I do infinite potential healing, because and be a example of that in all I operate in and stuff. And the reality is, it hasn't been plain sailing. It's been very targeted and influenced and stuff. And if I go back to that image about the unknown, this is something I've offered since the moon video, an appreciation of the mechanics of the reality you're in. And it has been quite dicey, quite challenging and all that, but I feel the victories we had are undeniable now, and it's a matter of following through with what we all intuitively chose to do before incarnating, and to be here now and be one of the privileged few to know what we know. So my intent behind this theme, which I might do a couple, who knows what I do in the future, I just offer some references to empower those components that we might have in us that we don't even know. So they're not passive, they're active, and by making them active, they're more potent for each of us to expand what we presently know and discover the unknown, and not be in fear of it. Feel empowered by it and inspired by wanting to discover, right? And get through this stuff so we can be on the other side, right? So I thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. This is not aimed to be too long or too complex or too deep. It's aimed to inspire you, to take you to another level, to your infinite, to potentially be the ones we've all been waiting for. So some of us can kick back and relax and let you do all the work. I'm joking, but I think it's a very potent time right now, and Earth, the rest of the universe, and the rest of our species on Earth, they'll need us to be our best, to anchor it all, to negate everything, and to get on the other side of whatever it is that is going to be, all right? But I really hope this has been a powerful reminder to many of you as well, and you get a lot from it. And just hang in there, keep strong. Emotional mastery is key, and just realize that maybe you've got the variable or the reality authority that we've all been waiting for. So step into it, guys. Enjoy. Until next time, Andre out.
Heading for the city lights, 975. We sharing each other, nearer than farther. Scent of lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl. Rejoicing in the world, take me now. We can
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.